The program you're about to see takes a compelling look at psychic phenomena, ESP, ghosts, alternative healing, and more. It features real people who claim to have experienced the other side of everyday existence. Today, on The Other Side,
I looked down expecting to see my legs on fire.
blasted by millions of volts of electricity,
All the doctors said that I would never walk or talk again.
an event so devastating, those who survive usually don't remember it happening.
The wounds that were created from the lightning strike were still smoking when we arrived on the scene.
Think the odds are against it? Don't tell these people. They've been struck by lightning today.
Welcome to The Other Side. Fortunately, the odds of being struck by lightning are approximately 600,000 to 1. Now that's reassuring. But what happens if you beat the odds and the odds beat you? Well, if you live through it, you've been touched by one of the most powerful forces in nature. Your life will never be the same. Our first guest witnessed that deadly force firsthand when he was called to rescue a man struck by lightning. Let's welcome Randy Niebert. Randy, thank you for joining us. Randy, something very bizarre happened when you went to help a man who was struck by lightning. Tell us the story.
We arrived, there was a man that was dismounting a motorcycle in an electrical storm. He was struck by lightning, knocked away from the motorcycle. The wounds that were created from the lightning strike were still smoking when we arrived on the scene, which I mind you was 10 minutes after the fact that he was struck. So we
He took a direct hit.
Direct hit. Nothing bounced off of it. It was just directly to him. Up on arrival, this is what I seen: a man laying there, just as black and blue can be. The paramedic team started their rescue effort, and upon my knowledge, we stretched plastic because lightning was still dancing all around. It was still storming, and there was a radio for help to lift a helicopter, which is the air support helicopter, to come and lift the body and
So a
run back
whole
to the
good
hospital.
team is now gathering to help this man. He's still
Correct.
alive and barely alive.
He was, at my estimation, he was clinically dead.
Yeah.
There was just being that color. So anyway, we stretched, having enough on the team to start compression, CPR and all this. We stretched plastic to keep the workers dry and what have you. At that time, the radio transmission was made from the ambulance. After the transmission was made from the ambulance, everything went dead. And normally when an engine stalls out in an ambulance, you still have lights. Everything out, just at that instant. Then a woman appears, dressed in early 1800 to mid 1800s attire. Comes up to the scene. She is being restrained by 2 police officers. And at this time, she said, "I need to touch him. I need to touch the ground." And I'm witnessing this because I'm holding the plastic and I'm looking right over at her. And the kind of head man said, you know, just keep her back. We can't allow. And I just told him, said, just let her do what she has to do, and then she can go about her way. And then he just reluctantly nodded. She came and knelt down by him, touched his body, and had a Bible in the other hand, and started thumping the Bible to the ground, saying the 23rd Psalms. Finished that, rose the Bible to the sky, and started speaking in it, either in a tongue or Latin. It was obviously something that I didn't understand. She looked directly at me after she had done what she'd done, smiled, stood up, walked away, and at the second that she walked away, another EMT that was on the scene started gaining a pulse back. And mind you, this was after several minutes of being out.
Sounds very mysterious. Well, would you like to meet the man Randy found by the side of the road, struck by lightning and brought back to life by a mysterious woman dressed in black? Stay with us.
Later, on The Other Side, the appearance of a mysterious woman was the difference between life and death for this victim of lightning. Hear how this experience changed his life forever when we return.
Welcome back. A single bolt of lightning generates 50 million to 2 billion volts of electricity. Imagine, 2 billion volts. Randy Niebert saw firsthand the terrible consequences of such an accident, but that wasn't all that Randy saw that night. What did you think of this mysterious woman, Randy, who came to the aid of this lightning victim?
She wasn't an everyday person, and I feel very much that she wasn't of the world that we know.
Did she look like an apparition, or was she physical like you and me?
She was physical. There was 2 police officers that were restraining her at the time.
Who had physical contact with her,
Yes.
in other words. Yeah. What was the state of the man who was struck by lightning?
He was definitely, would say, dead, beyond the shadow of a doubt.
You've been to accidents before,
Yes.
and you're looking at a fatality here.
Correct.
Yeah. A direct hit by lightning, what are the chances even that you'd survive that? Probably not good.
I would say slim to none.
Yeah. And so you guys didn't have hope, but then once he had contact with this woman in black, suddenly a pulse is found.
Correct.
What did you think about that?
Still brings chills to my spine.
Yeah, okay. Well, thanks to Randy and the mysterious lady in black. Bob Davidson is here with us today. Bob, come on out. Man. Meteor Man. Do you remember being struck by lightning?
No,
You don't?
no,
Yeah. You were
That-
just zapped. Came as a
Right.
surprise, no warning.
no. That part of my life is just gone.
You don't
I
remember
have-
the lady in black?
No recollection of anything.
What happened to you after being struck?
The only thing that I could remember through the whole thing was talking to my father.
During the time you were out?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, when I woke up in the hospital 7 weeks later, when I came out of the coma, I kept asking everybody, where's my dad? Because that's the last person that I talked to that I could remember.
And where was he?
He was dead. I'd buried him 2 years before.
Are you different now? Who were you before you were struck? And were there changes in your life from having been struck by lightning?
No, really, I don't know. I can't remember anything about my life.
You have amnesia for your previous life.
I don't think it's amnesia. I just can't remember nothing.
Well,
Well, whatever that is.
maybe you forgot the meaning of the word amnesia.
Well, that could be.
Are you afraid of lightning now?
No, not now.
Not afraid of anything?
For years I was. I would run and hide, but
Hi, Bob. I was wondering, did you have any idea who the woman was in black? Did you feel her touching you when you were out, or was she somebody from the past that you might have known, or who knew your father, possibly?
no. No, I have no idea. I would like to know, but
You have no idea who this woman was?
no.
Do you believe she saved your life from the story you heard?
Yes.
What do you think she did?
Well, I think she put the energy back in my body to get it going again.
Randy, do you have any idea who the lady in black was?
An aberration. Somebody that came through a time window.
Someone came through it. Were you a believer in the possibility of that kind of a paranormal experience prior to this incident?
Pretty
Randy?
open-minded, yes. I
Yeah,
would
you
say I
open-minded
am.
about it. Had you had experiences before this?
Nothing out of the normal than
This
anybody else would.
jumped out at you.
Correct.
Yeah, yeah. What did the doctors say about your condition? I mean, what kind of a hit did you take? Could they ever determine that?
Well, a direct hit. All the doctors said that I would never walk or talk again. My vocal cords was completely destroyed and gone, and I couldn't talk for a number of years.
So you shouldn't have recovered, in fact. I mean, it was
No.
not a good likelihood that you would have recovered.
No, that's what they say.
Yeah.
Did your father have anything to tell you when you were out during that time? I mean, did he have anything he wanted you to relate to the family?
That's
or-
another thing that I can't remember anything about, only talking to him.
What a bummer. You have a near-death experience and you can't remember. Wow. When we return, we'll meet a woman who was struck by lightning, but that was only the beginning of her nightmare. Stay with us.
When the Other Side continues,
Struck me and 3 other people.
does lightning strike twice? It does. Meet a double strike victim and learn how he survived when we return.
Welcome back. The ancient Greeks thought lightning was a message from the gods. Well, in the case of our next guest, it was a mixed message. Welcome, Joyce Hodge. Thanks for joining us. Joyce.
Thank you.
Where were you when you were struck by lightning?
I was in Milpitas, California. At my job, I was the receptionist wearing a headset.
Wearing a headset in a building?
In a building.
And what happened?
Also, I should say, I was kicked back with my right foot on my metal heater.
Okay.
Next thing I remembered, felt like someone had hit me in the back of the head with a sledgehammer.
This is lightning that sort of came through, what, the wiring of the building? And
I
into
became the ground.
What were the negative effects on you after you recovered?
Well, I haven't yet recovered. I still have problems. My life revolves in a circle. Things just keep happening over and over and over.
Like what? Help us understand this.
I shed my skin from head to toe like a snake. This is my third set of hair. It's almost been like having chemotherapy.
How long ago was this, Joyce?
September 91.
So continuing problems with your body as a result of the lightning. What do the doctors say?
Well, in California, the doctors don't know too much. I'm pretty much a guinea pig to them. But I have to say that I've been very fortunate because I don't have insurance or anything, and all of my doctors in San Jose treat me free.
Because they're intrigued by the ongoing effects for you. What about the emotional effects of this?
Whoa. Well, I used to be a mild-tempered person. Now I have a very hot temper. I've followed people in my car. I've gotten out of my car and I've beat on people's windows because they've done something to upset me. I tried to crawl over my doctor counter, Dr. Mack, because one of his nurses had upset me, and I was going to get her.
And you feel this is an effect of this injury?
Definitely.
Have you sought counseling or something to try and figure out the connection?
I go to counselors, my doctors, psychiatrists every week.
Has it had a spiritual impact on you?
Well, I believe I was pretty much spiritual before this happened. And since it's happened, it's like, what did I do to deserve this? You know, I was an active member in my church. I taught sign language in my church, but I can't remember any of the signs anymore. I was a member of the senior choir at Emmanuel Baptist Church, and I can't remember the songs.
So this just really stopped your life in its tracks.
Yes, it has.
You also, though, tell us, though, that you have some new abilities, right? Some new
Yes, some strange things started happening to me.
Like?
When I first got home from the hospital, one of the first things I did was write a country and western song. Now that was not me.
Was it about your experience?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Very strange. And then afterwards, I started doing artwork. I don't know where I got it from. And I've written 9 children's books.
Wow.
Within the last 6 months. I mean, I do things that I don't know why I do. I started making artifacts, Indian artifacts. This is a dream catcher. This is supposed to, you put it in your windows, and it's supposed to help your dreams be good.
And this is Native American art that you did not have an interest in or knowledge about beforehand?
Had absolutely none.
What's your opinion? What do you think happened to you? What do you think occurred?
I think it opened up an awareness of art. I always liked to draw, but I could only draw things like cartoons. I never wrote.
Yeah. So it shut you down, and you've had losses in some areas and gained some new things, but overall, you would rather go back to where you were?
Absolutely.
Okay. We've all heard the expression, be careful what you ask for, because you might get it. Well, Michael Sachs asked for a sign from the universe, and he got the shock of his life. Michael, welcome. Thank you for being with us. You were on a camping trip with a friend. What happened to you?
Well, there was a big lightning and thunderstorm, and I guess a sensible person would have gone into a car. I went out on an outcropping of rocks, large rocks, and stood out there and was just, you know, amazed by the beauty of it. And I did a prayer, a Sufi prayer, which is, I was saying Ya Fatah, which means the opener. It's like opening my heart to the universe and basically just opening myself to what the world had to give me. And
How did the lightning strike you?
well, I didn't get struck right then. I went back to the campground, and my friend and I sat down under a tree, and we were just going to start to play a little game of cards, getting shelter from the rain. And sat there just a minute, and then for some reason I just said, let's, you know, we moved. And we moved to a back away from that tree where I was sitting. And a few seconds later, there was a huge explosion. And the actual tree where I had moved from got hit and blew apart. And the lightning must have struck the ground and came up into me and traveled up from my buttocks up into my stomach and then down my leg and burned a spiral hair off my leg and it raised a welt.
You could feel it sort of as it was coursing through your body.
Well, at first, it just, I didn't even know what happened. She was sitting in a chair, like one of those little folding chairs that she brought with her, so she got much less of the effect. So she was a little more aware of what happened. She said, we were struck by lightning. I had her dog in my lap, and the dog was also burned up one paw across his chest and down. And it just felt like my legs were on fire. At first, I was just totally disoriented, and I thought, at first I thought I was dying. And then I thought, you know, I'll be a cripple, or my legs were burned off. I looked down expecting to see my legs on fire, and they were there.
What are the physical effects that have lingered for you?
Well, interestingly enough, I had from surgery years before, I guess something like 10 years before, I had pain that radiated down my leg. And it's basically the lightning took the same path that this pain went down my leg. And after that, I didn't have the pain anymore.
Interesting.
And
surgery from the sky.
Right.
Yeah. Now, there's another twist to your story.
My father was struck by lightning also. When he was a young man, maybe 20, 22 years old, he had a milk route.
Did you know this?
You know, I sort of faintly remembered it, and I only was able to ask about it later because it was just one of the stories I heard, I guess, growing up.
Makes you wonder if unconsciously, I mean, there you certainly put yourself at risk. It was a powerful spiritual moment, but it was not advised, really, to go out in a lightning storm and expose yourself to that. Very interesting. Well, lightning never strikes twice, or does it? When we come back, we'll meet a human lightning rod who's been struck twice and now worries about being hit again. I don't blame him. Stay with us. Welcome back to The Other Side. Now, at different times in our lives, we feel, you know, unlucky. But our next guest is real unlucky. Norm Marlin has been struck by lightning twice in his life, and the odds of that happening are just beyond calculation. Norm, tell us about your first lightning strike.
I was a call taker for the 911 center in Newcastle County, Delaware. Speaking on the headset, I had a headset on, speaking to someone from Middletown who was calling for a police emergency at the time, and the lightning struck a telephone pole outside of the center. It came through the line. It struck me and 3 other people. They were dispatchers. I was a call taker. Knocked me out of a chair. I continued on the telephone. I don't remember any of this. This was all relayed to me when I came back to work, and they played the tape back.
Already we're scaring you if you work with a headset in your job. I'm sure that's uneasy for people.
Yes.
What about the second time?
The second time I was on the boardwalk in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, and something had told me not to go on the boardwalk. There was one hellacious storm there that day, worst storms that they had had in like 150 years. And my wife and I got out of the car, went up on the boardwalk in a lull of the rainstorm, and I came out from under shelter. She was about 2 feet from behind me. I reached for her hand. The lightning struck me, knocked me a block up the boardwalk, and didn't hurt her. So. And
was she wearing a rubber glove? If I were your wife, that's what I would do.
No, but she wouldn't. I'm sorry, I said I wouldn't say this, but she was so afraid she would not touch me.
Yeah.
While I was laying there. She let other people.
Sounds like the right thing to do, actually.
And it was absolutely the right thing.
Can you describe what it's like? What's it like to be hit by lightning? Are there any words to describe this?
I don't remember anything, but a calm that I had. And the only way I can describe this is, have you ever opened your refrigerator and how white it is inside when that light comes on? Imagine getting in the refrigerator, closing the door and turning on 1,000 lights inside, how white it would be. You don't see anything else but that white.
You were struck 2 years to the day, right?
Just about, yes, sir.
Wow. Dr. Bruce Hensel is the medicine and science editor of KNBC here in Los Angeles and an assistant professor of medicine at UCLA. And you've studied the effects of lightning. What happens medically when millions of volts go through a person?
In a word, you become a conductor. The only way the electricity can travel is through you. Now, you have to have a complete arc. That's why if you're not on the ground, if your feet are off the ground, you're sitting in a chair like this, you won't be able to complete the circuit. But if you can, what happens is it enters one point. You've heard about in and out points, entrance and exit wounds. Well, that's what happens with lightning. It goes right through your body, and it comes out in another point. You become an electrical conductor.
Like Joyce with the headset and her feet on the metal radiator.
Exactly, exactly. What might happen as a result of that is you might see only a little burn here, and a little burn, maybe a little worse on the foot where it comes out, but the internal damage can be much, much worse.
This is a devastating injury, isn't it?
Absolutely. It very often is a life-ending injury, and if not, it's a serious injury. And when people come into the emergency room, we need to give them so many fluids to prevent their kidneys and liver from failing, because what happens is you cook the muscles, and the muscles begin to break down, and they can cause organ failure. So you really have to support the person.
Hi, I have a question for the gentleman in the middle. I know in life there's a purpose for everything. What do you think your purpose for surviving 2 times is?
That's an extremely intelligent question, and I wish to God I had an intelligent answer for it. I don't. It's, I know I was saved for a reason. I just haven't been able to find it yet.
Interesting. Do you all feel that there's some purpose for you to be here? Your art. What about you, Bob?
Yes.
What purpose did you have coming out of this? Do you have a mission?
I have no idea what my purpose is, but for years I asked different ministers and religious people and everything else, why did this happen to me? Why did they allow me to live? Why did God allow me to live? And nobody could tell me.
Well, I'll tell you. It's because we need you around, because you have work to do.
Good. That's good.
That's all you need to know.
Norm, do you think lightning is especially attracted to you?
It's an interesting concept. Is that possible?
I don't know. I have relatives that think it is, because I did have another problem, and I have metal in my body.
Does that have an effect, Doc?
Well, not only does that have an effect, but you always hear the old adage that lightning never strikes twice. It's not true. There are an incredible number of, it's not true. There's an incredible number of cases like Norm where people have been struck 2, 3, 4 times. We don't understand it, but it may very well be that people have different electrical energies in their body. There's a lot we still have to learn, even to help us medically.
So statistically, you can't really track it that way. The odds are funny in that way, that some could be multiple victims. Well, next we'll meet a woman who got a second chance at life when she survived a lightning strike. Stay with us.
The Other Side will return.
Welcome back to The Other Side. My next guest was struck by lightning and found her true reason for living. Welcome, Greta Alexander. Greta, nice to have you here. What happened when you were struck by lightning?
Will, it's very interesting. I never thought I would live beyond 31 years old. I thought my 32nd year I would step out of the physical body.
You always had this feeling growing
up? Ever since I was a little bitty girl. And at that time I was pregnant with my 5th child, and it was in April, and my husband was out selling insurance. It was really late that night when he came home. And if you've ever been in a thunderstorm in central Illinois,
You bet.
man, I mean, that lightning goes racing across and they let you know that it is there.
It's ferocious.
And I had put the children to bed. My one little girl became very apprehensive and came home and got in bed with my husband and myself. And you put a pregnant mama, a wiggly baby, and a snoring husband, you got a problem. So I got out of bed and went into the twin bedroom, which I just changed around 2 days before, and I'd put Venetian blinds up at the windows. And as I laid in that twin bed and watched that lightning, I thought, isn't this beautiful? And the next thing I knew, the Venetian blinds had wrapped around me. The windows were completely ripped from the sill. The chimney was in the neighbor's yard. Lightning had struck our home and the bed was on fire, and I was screaming at the top of my lungs.
Pregnant.
You bet.
Wow.
Sure was. So I couldn't get out, and the bed was flaming. And there was a cold air register beneath the windows, which it grounded into the furnace, and they called it a cold bolt. And so my husband came and got me out of bed, and the sulfur, you could taste it and smell it. It was horrendous. And the children and we ran out to the front, you know, and the doctor was summoned. He said the blood pressure was crazy, but I was okay. And on June the 2nd, we delivered a baby girl, and she was okay too. And but after that, my whole life changed.
This was a benchmark for you.
Yes, it definitely was.
What happened?
Well, after I delivered the baby, one evening I'd gone to bed and I saw at the foot of my bed a lady, the most beautiful lady, Will, I've ever seen in my life. And she had a blue headpiece and a gown on. And she put her arms out to me, and I just felt like I wanted to go, and nothing else mattered. And I heard her say, "Not now, my child. The time is not now." And after that, I began having dreams and sensing and knowing and feeling.
You developed full-fledged psychic ability that you
Yes.
attribute to this event?
It enhanced it. I used to be 110, and now I'm at 220.
Increased your voltage.
You bet. So.
Were there any lasting effects on the baby? Was the baby hurt?
The baby grew very well. She now has a little boy, and he now has the gift.
This is your daughter Rita. Now
Yes, my
you're
beloved daughter
not the
Rita.
baby. You were not the
No,
baby.
I'm not
you
the
were.
baby. I'm the oldest.
How old
daughter.
were you when
I
this
was
happened?
almost 9. I was almost 9.
And you remember this?
Oh yes, I remember it quite vividly.
Yeah.
I remember the storm, and I remember when the sound of the lightning, and I remember, the screaming, yelling for us to get out. My brother and I, we slept upstairs. So, we had to come down the stairs to get out, and I just remember, my father, screaming to get out, and my brother and I were really worried about my mother, where's our mom, where's our mom? And, so we ran outside into the rain, and we were standing out in the rain, and which, out of fear and what have you. But we were all okay, and everything turned out all right. But for my mother, it was definitely a change.
Change, yeah. Medicine doesn't help you with this, but what do you make of the people who say that there's a connection between this kind of very unusual, shocking trauma and abilities that can't seem to be explained?
Well, actually, Will, medicine does help me with this, because one of the things that medicine teaches you, if you're open, is that we don't know everything. And one of the things we've been discovering in the last 10, 20, 30 years is that we certainly don't know everything about electrical and magnetic energies, and we see things like this all the time. Just a couple of minutes ago, I can honestly say this. We were sitting here, and she looked at me, and she knew, my father died very recently. She knew that. She knew what went on with him. She knew how he died, and she knew what I was concerned about, and I have never met her before. So any person or doctor who doesn't think, or who thinks that we understand everything, I can explain why the baby didn't get hurt. The arc missed the baby, or the arc passed through it.
Thank you.
The
I
arc
needed
just simply,
to hear that.
an arc can come in here and come out at a different point.
That's true. I got a chill. It means this is truth. God has spoken. Thank you.
Yeah, I can be psychic too.
Thank you. I always wondered that. That's great.
This is the ultimate in complementary medicine, isn't it?
That's right.
Each
This is
helping each other.
wonderful.
Holistic.
I have a question for Greta.
Yes.
How psychic were you before the lightning strike?
Yeah.
I can remember many, many things, like when I was in the 8th grade and there would be a test. When I did the chapter, there was parts of it looked darker than the rest, and that's what I would study. And that's what the test was about. And
So
I thought
basically,
everybody saw that.
Yeah, basically, Greta, you used it to cheat, is essentially what you're telling me. Greta sees the dark part. She knows.
Hi, can you turn the ability off, or is it always bumping into you?
It's always there, but I never, ever read someone unless they ask me. That's wrong, to interfere into somebody's life or to read their book of life when they haven't asked. Unless I saw, for instance, that you were going to take the wrong medication by accident, then I would say, now remember, watch your medication, and that's very important. Like when we go to a restaurant maybe, and I see that they have a low tire on their car, and I have to get up and say, excuse me, but I'm Greta Alexander, and I'm a parapsychologist, and you have a low tire on the left side of your car, and be sure and check it, because if you don't, you're going to be out in the middle of the boonies, and it's going down.
Norm would like to pay you to follow him around, this lightning around.
The greatest gift I think God has given me is love. We stopped at a McDonald's one day, and a little boy said, "Oh, isn't she fat?" And it really upset me. And when I came from the restroom, I prayed about it. And when I came out, I said to him, "Honey, you think I'm a big woman?" I said, "Do you know why I'm so big?" He said, "No, why?" And I said, "Because God gave me such a big heart to love so many people, He had to give me a big body to carry it in." He said, "Isn't that nice?" He shook it. So you see, my darling, it's in love. And I think God has given me a gift of love. Of all the things He's given me, this is the greatest gift of all.
Amen.
And I truly believe that.
Good. Well, so far, all of our guests believe they were safe for some special reason. Now Greta wants to put her lightning-induced gift to the test. Stay with us. If you'd like to join us here on The Other Side as a member of our studio audience, please call us for tickets at 213-520-2307. Has a vengeful ghost made you confess to a crime or admit guilt? If so, we'd like to hear from you. Send us your letters to Justice from Beyond, P.O. Box 290, Los Angeles, California, 90078. Please include your day and evening phone numbers. Welcome back to The Other Side. It's easy to see how your life would never be the same after being struck by lightning. Greta Alexander believes she knows why she was saved, and she wants to help our guests find their purpose. Greta, what do you see for our guests today? How about Bob? You heard Bob's story. He was really zapped.
Well, let's see, Mr. Roberto. Let's see what I feel for you. First of all, I feel that this coming year you will begin to meet other people who have had a lot of problems in their understanding of themselves. And I think you're going to be able to say, look, what happened in the past is past. What is important is living the now. And you're here to show this great enhancement you're like a flower, you're like a rose. And I feel like this rose is just gonna start opening. And I get really excited about it. I want you to start writing the things that come to you. Certain things come to you. Your hands are gifted. You have gifts in your hands of making some things. And I feel like you need to really bring that out.
Does that make sense to you, Bob?
Yeah, I think some of it's already started.
I do too.
I mean,
tell me about it.
They're trying to help people.
Like what?
Well, just like my kids, they wanted to buy a house. They needed somebody to take care of things for them.
Mm-hmm. And if you weren't here, you wouldn't be able to do that.
And I was there to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I went back to work, and I'm able to do that now. So.
Okay. What about for Joyce, who has found new gifts in children's writing and art, but yet seems to be struggling with her anger?
She hasn't scratched the surface yet of what God has in store for her. She's really special. The reason she's special is because she is going to enhance her race. She's going to bring it up into a whole new plane to where the honor, the dignity, the honor of her writing will open doors for people beyond their fondest expectations. And it will begin to, it's already started, just like with Bob, it's already started, but it's going to move and move and move and move and move and continue on. And then, in approximately 2.5 to 3 years, there'll be a group started, and she'll be in the middle of that group. And she will be bringing young people to become aware of who am I. Know thyself is the greatest gift we have, is to know who we are, where we're going, and why are we here.
Does that make sense to you, Joyce?
Yes, it does.
Is this an aspiration you have?
It is now. It wasn't before I got struck by lightning, but since I have,
Yeah.
yes, it is.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What about Michael, a second-generation victim?
Oh, he has gifts of healing. He will do healing beyond your fondest expectations. His hands are, the aura of his hands, when you look at his hands, it's almost like that it just radiates from there. So he will have hands-on healing. Plus, yeah, heal me, baby. There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
He will do acupuncture, acupressure. He will do herbs. He'll do natural, all the natural healings. Plus, he will tie in with a group which will have a physician, chiropractic. Boy, this is interesting, baby doll. And the whole clinic will be involved.
Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, well, I was going to say before, my whole life has really been about service, and I think the lightning was just a reminder. A week before that, I actually fell on my head. I was hanging upside down in one of those inversion things, and I fell. Oof. That was a shock, and it was a reminder, and I feel like if you don't get it, life gives you stronger reminders. And the lightning was a big jolt. And
you needed a second message? Is that what you're telling me?
Right. I think
excuse me, Michael, I'm calling you.
And I see it as a gift. I see it as a gift to have received it. I'm not, I was looking through my old journal, and I wrote that night, thank you. You know, thanks for the message, and that I'm alive to do.
Does the idea of healing resonate?
Well, I am. We were talking before, and I am in acupuncture school now, and I'm going to be a doctor. And it was something that I was told by a psychic when I was in college when I was 19. And it was like, you know, be a doctor. And I've gone into arts and writing, but now I'm coming back to it.
Yeah,
and
that's where he belongs.
How about for perhaps one of the most unlucky men in America? Poor Norm.
Well, you know, it's interesting, but Norman will, of course, continue on with the group that he is associated with now of persons who've been struck by lightning, and which is very important. But he also will write. He has a humor about him that'll just frost your bippies, baby. and this guy is going to write. I see little books like you stick in your pocket, you know. And they are really neat. And he's going to bring happiness and laughter to the universe.
Absolutely.
Does that ring true, Norm?
It sounds like I'm going to be a bookie. I can handle that. I mean.
Yeah. Or a comedian.
Well, I guess. If I'm funny.
You're a sort of a gentle, humble soul. Is that the accurate way to describe you? Not really. You're just being humble on the show. Is that it?
My question is for Joyce. You said that you taught sign language before being
Yes.
struck, and you couldn't remember it, but could you relearn it, or has it hurt your learning capacity? Or?
It's hurt my learning capacity. I don't read anymore because after I finish the page, I don't even know what it said.
That's one problem. A lot of people, just to get into that, is the memory loss for short-term memory. It's a pain to try to go. If you want to do something in life, you're always going to have to change. It's that change that gets us because we can't remember what we're changing.
Yeah, that makes sense, right?
Yes, it does make sense because the area of the brain that's associated with memory is in the temporal regions right here and the hippocampus in the middle. And it's easy for those areas to be injured without other areas being injured. But something else, the reverse is also true for some people, and that is at least about the event. I think you heard it a little bit here tonight. Certainly people with near-death experiences from lightning report it. They have a vivid recollection. You can hear the way these people describe the moment that it happened. Mm-hmm. They have a vivid recollection of that particular moment as if it were lit up for them.
Interesting.
Greta, how do you feel about people who question the validity of your psychic powers?
that's okay, because they are where they are, and I am where I am, and I know what I have accomplished, and I know what Spirit has brought to me, and I feel like I'm like a catalyst, and that the angels bring it to me, and then it comes through me. And I feel like that if you want to accept it, that's okay, and if you don't, that's okay, because each of us have our own way of thinking and of understanding and of doing. And I don't have the right to try and push this upon you. And I feel like those who don't believe, that's okay.
Some people seem to have a big stake in debunking it. Yeah,
Yes,
interesting.
and-
Okay, well, don't go away. We'll be right back with more of The Other Side.
Dr. Will Miller's Wardrobe, furnished by Rick Palak, Sherman Oaks, California.
Welcome back to The Other Side. We're talking about lightning. Norm, you have a support group.
Before they got in touch with me, and I responded to their letter to me, I thought I was the only guy in the world that was struck and lived. And I'm sure Joyce and I know Bob, because they're members of the group, we felt the same way, that we were the only ones. Once we got in touch with the group, we found out we weren't, and that we all had the same problems. I don't care what we all had the same problems and the same experiences. Maybe not when it happened or where it happened or how it happened, but we had it. And if you do know anybody, you really get them in touch with the organization. It's an international group, and
great. Okay. Dr. Bruce Hensel, what advice do you have? Closing word.
Well, just to avoid getting hit by lightning. If you're in a lightning storm, the point is not to complete the arc. So if you're in a car, you're safe. If a high wire lands on you, because you're between the car and the ground, you're separated by rubber. If there's any rubber around, sit on it. Don't complete the arc. And if you have to propel yourself out of the car, do that exactly. Propel yourself. Don't touch the ground. And if somebody else is hit by lightning or holding on to electricity and getting a shock, the way to knock them off is to take a flying leap. Don't complete the arc by staying on the ground yourself.
Just
Jump
a fast
and push
jolt
them.
and nail them. Okay.
With your
good.
feet off the ground.
Great, okay. Well, I've learned a couple of things. One, lightning is very dangerous and can absolutely devastate your life. And secondly, if you have been a victim of trauma, you know what? Choose life. And you do have a purpose, to keep living and keep loving. Thanks for joining us on The Other Side. Here's a preview of our next show.
Why would a piano play the compositions of its dead owner?
No one else knew his music.
Can a warplane yearn for its long-dead crew?
Airmen become very, very attached to their planes.
How does a painting shed tears of sorrow?
We saw the tears strolling down from the eyes of the Virgin Mary.
Do things have a life of their own? The secret life of inanimate objects.